All right, welcome everyone to Conquest's Happy Hour for April 24th. It's going to be a doozy. Welcome to everyone joining us on Twitch. Joey is there. She will happily relay questions. We recognize that this will be a little different in that we did not open this meeting up for everyone. Our vanguards and our commercial retailer partners have been invited to join us in the Google Meet, but all are welcome to ask questions. We encourage that. We have the chat going. And so we will be absolutely able and continuously ready to answer the questions we choose to answer, because that's the way we do things around here. Doesn't mean you're going to get all your questions answered. It just means you're going to get some of your questions answered. And as you can probably guess, we are going to be doing a bit of new info, new balancing, new pretty pictures. And so a lot of fun things that are coming up. And as the lead screen highlights, Leo's going to have a big presentation here. So we're pretty excited about that. What happened? Why did it do that? So we're excited about that. And then our friend Evan is also going to be talking about our most magical update as well for First Blood. So you're going to see a TLAOK screen and a First Blood screen. And you're going to get a sense of what's happening. So I'm going to kick things off, as you can see here, with a little bit from Evan, and then I'm going to take charge, and then we're going to give some stuff to Leo, then we're going to show you some pictures, and if it all goes well, we'll have a success.
Hey guys, it's Van here with our most magical update. So as you can see with the picture from the first below, it's going to be a big Sorcerer King update for both First Blood and Last Argument of Kings. So I'm gonna take it with First Blood first. So the story behind this sort of update for Sorcerer King is that we're looking at Sorcerer King's faction as a whole magical focus faction. In Last Argument of Kings, a lot of the focus of the faction is on ritual, the grand ritual. Combining everything and then you channeling it into like one big spell that you can unleash upon the enemies. Whereas in First Blood, because of the amount of models is smaller, we feel that incantation does not exactly fit, what we want for Sorcerer King. So instead, we take on the aspect that is most unique and also most important to Sorcerer King, which is the spellcasters themselves. How does a Raj, a Maharaja, and a sorcerer deal and showcase their magical prowess in Sorcerer King? So I'm sure a lot of you are familiar with D&D. In D&D, there's this thing called a meta magic feat, where you basically take an ability that will empower a certain spells. So we decided to explore a little bit of that concept in Sorcerer King, and then we come up with this new faction ability called Empowered Incantation. So what does that mean? So from a flavor perspective, Sorcerer King's spellcasters are meant to be more powerful than every other spellcasters in the game. They tap on the elemental realms, they take it from their own training and their own gift, etc., and they can transcend basically the mortal limit of spellcasting. So this Empowered Incantation is a very powerful version of the spell. So each existing incantation that the Sorcerer King have will now have an empowered version. So you now have these new resources that you gather called Confluence, which is generated by the things in your army as well as your spellcasters, and then you can spend them on your incantation to make them a more powerful version of incantation. In a way, a bit similar to like Ritual, where you sort of build up to a certain point and then you unleash it all in the giant crescendo upon the opponent. So we want to take a little bit of that concept too from Last Argument and apply it to First Blood. So to make the spellcasters an integral part of the army. Now, what does this mean also to the rest of the army is that it also gives us a little bit of a design space so we can play around with a lot of the elemental brutes. Now the elemental brutes can play around with this empowered incantation. They get a certain buff when your spellcasters perform these empowered incantations. And so we play with a lot of aspects of the army, the spellcasters casting spells, as well as the elemental brutes performing and gaining benefits of how these empowered incantations. Also, we have new courts, earth and water. So now each each spellcasters will now have access to both the earth as well as water, and each of those earth and water will also have their own empowered version of their incantation. So all of these updates are going live for Sorcerer King very soon, and as well as the new releases, Elemental Brutes and Monsters, with that comes along. So we have Elemental Brutes for both earth, water, as well as monsters as well. So this is part one of the conquest for First Blood for Sorcerer Kings. We have a few other things for First Blood. But
this
is one of things. This is the most that I'm very excited about, because when designing this, it is very exciting because we get to play around with magic. We get to play around in magic, and we get to test around and see like what limits can we push these incantations to be, and we're happy with what we have, and as we're going to show it very, very soon to you guys.
Yeah, so we wanted to kick off with First Blood for a couple of reasons, and we're going to have some more First Blood updates as we go through each faction. Leo is going to talk about the Sorcerer Kings TLAOK coming up in a minute, but we are bringing you a lot of different updates here. These are all previews. We're going to go live, and the plan is 2 weeks. So we're looking at, I think, Monday the 12th. Am I right about that date, Leo?
Yes, that is correct.
Monday the 12th is when these will go live in the app. And then any events, any world events that are planned would be a month after for these rules to take effect. Correct, Leo?
Exactly. There's always a 2-week grace period that you may or may not use these updates for that time being. So there is a period of 2 weeks that you do not have to if you don't want to.
Rodney, stay tuned, buddy. We've only done one thing so far. Stay tuned. So I'm going to talk quickly about some events that are coming up. We have Game Market in Tokyo. We're very excited to be going to our first Japanese show, and we will have a booth there with our retail partner Clash and Volley. Very excited about that. We're going to have a special con exclusive as well, which will be available at both Game Market and GameCon Canada. I'm going to save that as a little surprise, but that will be available both at our eShop as well as at those cons. We'll have the same one at both events. It's going to be sweet. Joey's going to be at KublaCon on Memorial Day weekend. She drew the short straw and is working Memorial Day weekend. So go and see her in California and hit up KublaCon. Joey, do you want to add anything else to that?
Wait, hold on. Let me make sure I'm talking because it's muting me.
Nope,
I'm here. Okay, cool. This is our, I want to say 4th in a row world event there. Please come say hi. We have extra table space. KublaCon's treating us great, and we're being added to the Kubla Brush in a special conquest category for their paint competition. Please come join us.
Perfect. And then UKGE comes at the same time, and that is going to be the special con exclusive at UKGE, the Peaky Flounder. We're super excited for this murderfish gnome to hit the bricks, as they say, or maybe the cobblestones over there. So come see us at UKGE, or you can buy this on the eShop as well for those 3 days or 4 days of the show. So we're excited. These are 3 events coming up. GameCon Canada will be in June as well. So that'll be Joey as well in Edmonton. So exciting stuff coming for events. And then for a quick product plug here of something that is a little less faction specific, we're bringing back Dice Worldwide. Our partner is Baron of Dice. Steve is great. He's remaining our partner for licensed dice, and he will make licensed dice in the US. But worldwide, we've had a struggle getting dice around, and maybe you've heard of things called tariffs lately, and they're in the news. Look it up, Google it, you'll find them. At any rate, we're doing dice in the EU as well, so that they are available to our worldwide partners. We're doing a marbled look, so they will be consistent with Baron's dice, but they are not, to be clear, not that there's anything wrong with either one. They're not Baron's dice. They're made in the EU. They have a similar look, but we've used different colorways so that you have different options, and these are available worldwide through our retailers, also on our website, and our distributor partners. So $29.99 for a pack of 24, and all 9 factions will be available by July. In May, we have the 2 that you see here, and then in July, we'll have the other 8 factions ready to go. And the faction symbol is engraved on the dice instead of the 1, because if you see the symbol, you know you're winning. Anything else? Anybody else want to add anything on the dice? You psyched about it? Leo has assured me these are not weighted in any way other than the way they're supposed to be.
Mine are. No, they're not.
James, that's December, man. Come on, give me a break. I'm not addressing December shows yet. So, Leo, tell us a little bit about what we're doing with the Euroni.
All right, so I'm gonna try to be thorough, but also quick because we have a ton of new things, and we have some goodness for every faction. Starting with the Euroni, mostly things that you guys have been asking. It's quality of life updates. First of all, there's a little bit of requiring that the Euroni were not bringing enough wounds on the table, so we're going to see a +1 wound across all modular stands. Don't worry, like we said here, Comet Leader will be adjusted for that. Now, the Damaru Damashi, and we're going to get an opportunity to see, and you're going to know what I'm talking about. They had this huge problem. They were just too cool. They were so cool, as you can see, they were so cool. They surpassed.
How cool were they, Leo?
It's funny because the moment we saw the models with stuffers, we're like, this needs to be, we have to do something in the design as well, because we did not envision them coming out like this insanely cool. Right. So we're seeing a little bit, they're getting this sort of let's say re-envisioning a little bit in the rules as well, just to reflect really what they've become. Right, because we started having a little bit different idea in mind, but these are so amazing, and the design team has really nailed it. So it needed to get some love. And of course, you've been asking about the Tengu Bushi, that you felt that they were lacking a little bit when it comes to choosing between the Bushi and the Akuma, and so they have this entirely new ability that you can read on the screen. Now, don't worry about, you can screenshot this, but you're going to find everything May 12th, and we're going to be posting things until then. So we're going to be giving you more snippets that you can read about on the website.
I'm going to take you through some of the pretty pictures, some of these that you have not seen yet. Some of them you have, but here are the Origami Warriors, also coming in May. Super excited for both the May releases for the Euroni. And then, of course, right now, shipping as we speak to all retailers have now shipped as of today. And that's those who've ordered direct, I should say. And then all the direct consumer orders start tomorrow for the cohort, which is our one-player starter for both First Blood and TLA OK. Coming up in June, the Yokai. And, you've got a dual kit here. Oh, there we go. So there's the next month's release, and then July you'll have the Yorigumo. And we're going to show you these again, so don't worry. I'm going quickly because you're going to get another view of them. And now we go to the city-states.
All right. So raise your hands if you weren't expecting the first 2 points. I know that all of you have been. We've definitely discussed about this. Now, first of all, like with all of the changes that we're doing, first of all, there are balance updates that are required for the health of the game, but also at the very end, we're going to talk a little bit about what is the overall direction for the game. So flank is something that we want to see less in the game. We want to see it being a little more rare. We want to make sure that we make the post 6th round gameplay having a little bit more oomph, having a few more tactical, let's say, possibilities. So that's why this is part of a big, let's say, attempt to, I don't want to say slow down the game, but almost slow down in the sense that you get more meaningful choices and tactics throughout the 10 rounds. Not the game doesn't run. We don't want the game to be running as fast as before. So Chariots and Talos, they are losing flank. They are making it up with Vanguard. And the other thing that that what was happening, we had Thorakitis, distance sprinting from one side of the battlefield to the other, and that's something that we're going to be adjusting right now. First of all, from Thorakitis themselves, and also from the initiative mastery. However, We're not just taking away; we're giving back. We don't just want to nerf things. We want to make sure you get cool things as well. And we have the great opportunity to give back through some very cool infantry abilities, playing off the strategic stack. So, for example, the hoplites, the phalangites, the thoracites, and the Agima will be seeing little cool things like that. Polemarch, it's not just about himself and his regiment. He now shares and has a little bit of cool aura. You asked for an ability that, for the Polemarch to not just buff his regiment, but also help a little bit spread that Polemarchy goodness around. And last, the Mechanist got the buff because you no longer get the -1 march when you get your hearth. So that's for it. And of course, there's more things that you're gonna see, but these were the notable ones.
And who doesn't love a little Polemarchy goodness? I'm going to use that everywhere I go from now on.
That would be
So-
Leontarchy goodness.
This is some Leontarchy goodness right here. So this is Michael Contreras Founders exclusive. I think most of you have seen it, but coming in May, like literally a week from now, well, maybe 10 days from now, we'll probably start shipping this bad boy. A numbered Founders exclusive. Michael Contreras sculpted it. It has that. I think a lot of people thought this would be a lot of what the city-states would be, and that aesthetic. And so far, everyone seems to be really jonesing for this one. We're really excited about it to be coming out. And Leontarchy goodness right here. So excited for that. I do expect to sell out of that one pretty quick. So fair warning, forewarned, if you will. And here we go to the Spires, Joey's favorite topic.
Okay, so really cool things for the Spires. Like before, we're not just focusing on the big changes, on the big things that some factions are getting. We want to make sure that everybody gets some cool things. So first of all, we have new rules and a new cool model, the Terraphone. Amazing. It plays the role of this aerial surveyor roaming around the battlefield, making sure that it has gives you some of those actions that you've been using with the Biomancer and the Ferromancer. You know which ones you've been using them, you've been loving them. Now you will be able to use them with the Terraphone Surveyor as well, along with some really cool things that we're going to be giving you more details as the days pass. Now, the other thing, free banners. New factions have gotten it. The reworks of older factions, you've been seeing it. So free banners for Forrester and Jones. You get a banner. You get a banner. Somebody bring the Oprah meme here for those banners.
You get a banner, and you get a banner.
Then now, Superior Creations, we wanted to give a little bit of love for those Spire brutes. So we want to give a buff. Superior Creations are now flat plus 10 points. You don't pay 5 points per stand anymore. We wanted to make those Avatar regiments a little bit more, let's say, viable, a little bit more cost efficient. And of course, there's a really cool ability for the Avatar that they get flawless strikes when they are inspired. That's super cool as well. Points adjustment. A lot of infantry dropped the point. Onslaught drones, Vanguard clones. We're talking about, you name it, bound clones. You'll be seeing a lot of really cool things.
And don't worry, speaking of cool things, you're going to see this again as well, but it bears another little view before we go on to Sorcerer Kings, the TLAOK updates.
Sorcerer Kings. Now, I'm going to stress a few points here as we go along. Super important. First of all, new courts, earth and water. And what does that mean? That means new elementals, new brutes, new monsters. And I mean, you've been seeing Mahut. You've been expecting it. You know it's an earth elemental. And we wanted, now that we had all 4 courts, we really wanted to stress that that spellcasty, arcane feeling of the Sorcerer Kings. So there are quite a few things. First of all, we know other factions, you have your characters and they select with maybe perhaps a school of magic, and then they get some spells specific to them. Now for the Sorcerer Kings, when you select your court, you have access to all of the spells from that court. It's more of a spell book. However, because we were getting to have too many spells, there were about 8 spells almost for Fire and Wind, we make sure that we tied it up a little bit. We removed a few spells because there were so many options that were unnecessary at that point. So we made sure to tidy it up, make sure that you have a lot of meaningful choices and the effects that we liked and were very good, we kept and make sure that you still have access to them. And that also means we've updated those spells and give them new life. Now, we also have new rituals. for the new chords, as well as updates to the existing ones. What we did, instead of having 4 fire, 4 wind, and so on, now we have 3 fire and 3 wind. However, they are all now cranked up to 11. They're a lot more interesting, a lot more ritually, a lot more magical, a lot more spellcasty. Really great. I'm really excited for you to see it. And a big thing, let's say, that really helped us find the direction for this rework is a lot of the quality of life updates that you've been asking. So first of all, before there was a gameplay, let's say, challenge for Sorcerer King players that they needed to bring their characters as soon as possible on the battlefield, and so they had to have as much flank as possible. Now, flank is something that we don't want to be seeing as much in the game, so what we did is tied up your amassing the ritual markers with your elementals and spellcasting, putting more emphasis on the actual army rather than just the spellcasters. So now it's super simple. Are you doing a fire ritual? The more fire things you do, the more markers you're going to put it. Very simply, you no longer have, let's say, Arcane Conduit. You have a new rule that's called Elemental Conduit. Do you play with a fire elemental? You give a ritual marker to your fire ritual. Simple as that. Did you do a fire spell? You add a ritual marker to your fire ritual. And that, of course, extends to all other codes. That's super important because it doesn't just forces you to have a lot of characters on the table at any given time to play, and that's something you've been asking for, and we made sure that we give you that ability. Now, the faction is there to focus on give you meaningful choices between 2 different elements, so making sure that you can play 2 dual, let's say, core sort of build with meaningful options, or go tall on one, and you can find different ways of doing that. Let's see what else. There's really cool things. Really cool changes is that now you can only prepare 1 ritual per round, and that's important. You're going to see because there are some a little bit of changes of mechanics there. However, unless you have a Maharaja, for example, you'll be able to begin a new one the moment you finish the previous one.
So to give Leo, do you mind if I jump in a bit?
Go for it.
I think he needs to breathe, so I'm glad you did.
So one of the paths that we took is each of your leaders focuses on a different aspect of your army, and that will also help you guide. So if you want to play heavy into the rituals, you're going to be using a Maharaja who has the ability to chain rituals, and he has the ability to play around with converting tokens. So correct, Leo, because I don't want to get confused here.
No, go for it.
Then the sorcerer himself is going to focus much more on actual spell casting, basic, the basic spells, not so much in terms of raw power, although that's there as well, also in terms of utility, what he can target, how he can target, ranges, and little details like this. The Raj is going to focus much more heavily on the elemental creatures. And the Sardar is getting a little bit of a glow up. He is now being upgraded to a Mahabharati. It is still the same character. It's just we've sort of retweaked his lore. And the Mahabharati are going to be the faction that use power, but they don't use rituals. In other words, they will consume elemental power to create buffs for themselves and their units and the units they're in. This is not a playstyle that we have fully fleshed out because the units aren't there yet for the, let's call it the more mortal Sorcerer King's army. But that is, it's a little tease for the future.
Absolutely. I'd like to address a question, whether the elemental mechanic will remain untouched, the 3 actions and so on. Now, so that is not there inherently. Before, the moment you played your the next elemental, you had 3 actions. 3 actions is something that we want to see less in the game. We have been getting a lot of feedback, and we want to make sure that we include that in our path to make the game, I don't want to say it's not slower, but have the game meaningfully pass further than just the 6th round. Of course, the Sorcerer Kings, they do provide some access to that third action, but it's not as easy to do anymore, and it's not as prominent. For the same reasons, for example, you're going to be seeing that we are now becoming a lot less giving with things like fluid formation, getting out of sequence actions, free actions here and there, free reforms. So you can expect to see less of that, and really have it only for the things that truly make sense to have it. This is part of an overarching strategy. We could design, let's say, decision, and we can see more of that.
Leo, we have a couple more questions if you want to keep taking a look there that I think
Yes.
tie to this, War Chants in particular.
War chants are tied to regiments through. So you're talking about Wadrun, or we were going to get to Wadrun we're going to talk about those as well. And because we're going to be, there are a few details that we're going to touch when we get there. It will be a much better place to get a little bit more.
All right. On to 100 Kingdoms then. You did a good job, Leo. I challenged him because when we were previewing this, the Sorcerer Kings were about 45 minutes of our call. And I'm like, we can't do 45 minutes of Sorcerer Kings, which I know is why he was talking so fast. He wanted to get so much in.
There's just a lot of things, and I wanted to make sure that I stress all the points, because I understand the more I say, the more questions you have, and I want to make sure that I give you as much accurate information as possible. Now, the 100 Kingdoms being one of the factions that have been getting their rework very recently, definitely has some factions that need a little bit of love. You've been asking for it. We see, first of all, there are some points adjustment here and there that you've been asking for, and specifically we want to see some love for the Gilded Legion, the Steel Legion, and so you can expect that there. It's not big update for the 100 Kingdom as they've gotten really cool things recently, but still there are some points that we want to make sure we want to give them some love on. All right, Dwagom.
Mm-hmm.
Another
big one.
Another big one. First of all, there is a new character, the Lost Ancestor. There are new regiments. I hope you appreciate the names. And of course, their rework is not going to drop now. It will drop during the next update. So the Lost Ancestor and the Lost and Found, they're getting rules for the current design of the army, and then, as we promised, their full rework is in the works. And I think Stavros has a lot of great things to share with you about the direction.
I recognize a shameless plug when I hear it. So the idea around the Dwagom is we want to focus on their, let's call it, stubborn individuality. So if you're familiar with the Dwagom, you know you have the clans, and then the clans have two sort of philosophies, right? You've got the Tempered, who are the sorcerers, who believe that that what the ancestors did was the first step on the changing of the Dwagom race and the new focus for the Dwagom race. And they use the sorcery that the Dwagom now have to sort of evolve and change, right? They're more contained and they're more intellectual. And then you've got the Ardent, who are basically saying the ancestors gave us freedom to do what we want to do. And we get to do what we want to do whenever, and nobody gets to say what is right, what is wrong, except us. And so they are aggressively individualistic, and in true Dwagom fashion, solve their debates mostly, with blades and fire. So they're two factions that usually are at loggerheads, and this creates a tremendous volatility within Dwagom society. So what you're going to see in the rules when they come out is that the armies or these cults are going to be difficult to integrate. So Tempered are going to play well with the Tempered, and Ardent are going to play well with the Ardent, and then the clan is going to be this solid bastion in between. So if you want to play a Tempered warlord in the Tempered path, he will play very well with the Tempered units, but he will have almost no interaction with Ardent. If you want to play the clan path, then you're going to have very solid clan units that you can sprinkle on a tempered leader with some tempered sub-factions, and an ardent leader with some ardent units. And then if you want to play ardent, you're going to see that the ardent play very well with themselves and the clan. I should have mentioned that the tempered also play well with the clan. But again, they're not going to be able to interact almost at all with the tempered. To accomplish this, to have the tempered and the ardent actually play together, you're going to have to go down the third path, or the fourth path, and that is the Ancestor. The Ancestor is the only creature with enough authority to basically make these two play nice. And that's effectively why you field the Ancestor, to be able to get play an interaction between ardent and tempered. So that's going to be sort of the path down which you will follow. You're going to see that. No, I'll leave it at that. I won't tease possible mechanics. But the idea is to bring the sort of Dwegom intransigence to the fore, but still give you lots of choices on how to build your army. So you will never be locked out of a unit so long as you pick the right warlord. You're not going to be able to use every warlord with every unit, but you are going to be able to use every model in your army together.
All right, Leo, we ready to go back to the deck?
Yes. And I would say my plug was Agumless, Stavro. I wouldn't say Sameless.
Close enough.
And this is now Evan's turn to talk a little bit about what we've got going on for First Blood around these.
Yeah, so we have seen the models, so now we need to bring them into the game. So again, the difference, a lot of the focus for First Blood with the Lost Are Now Found update is that we're trying to bring a new character into the Dwegom's arsenal. So the Lost Ancestor, so I can give a little bit of preview of what their rule is going to be, is it's a powerful character that can stop Aura of Death and Cleave, sort of like one of the two big weaknesses for Dwegom. So they focus a lot on that kind of manipulation, and it's going to be a very powerful frontline combatant. The two new brutes, which you've already seen before, so we have the Lost, a powerful beast that can take a lot of punishments, and we're trying out a new concept in the Found, which is the ranged brute, with a selection of ammunition to fire against the enemy. So it's going to be a fairly new concept where we get to select a special ability when they perform a range action. So this will be very interesting, and it gives a little bit more of a space for ranged brute to operate, because I think a lot of the ranged brutes that we have in First Blood will need to be explored a little bit further, and this is one of our ways to sort of make it a little bit more different and make it more interesting for you guys. So again, as with the Sorcerer King, the flavor for this update is we are expanding and exploring new things in terms of the design and seeing where we are in terms of how we mature with the process that we have, especially for First Blood and the game design itself. So hopefully you guys enjoy it in 2 weeks.
Thanks, Evan.
All right. Old Dominion goodness. Now, quite a few things. Starting off, new character. Theocrator is in, or if you see the model, you're not gonna understand the joke here because it's just massive. I'm gonna tell you one of the things that I like to say, that it has that and the new regiment, the Unhallowed Sepulture, which is essentially it's an update of the Profane Sepulture. It's not an addition to. It's just the name has changed. They have Vanguard.
Yes, we're going to show you pictures in a little bit. Hang tight.
I'm going to tell you one thing. They have Vanguard 3, so they can fit on the table. This is what I'm just going to leave it at that. The Theocrator, Spellcaster, melee. I just want to say a lot about this model, but I think it's important to see it first. And then you have your Unhallowed Sepulture, which is more of this support piece. These are design-wise the exact opposite of the Fallen Divinity. So where the Fallen Divinity will literally gobble up all of the essence around it to power itself, they are actually weakening themselves to support everything around them or to hurt everything around them a little bit more. Other than that, we are going to be seeing buffs for the Assassins, for the Prodromi, and the Kerikes, and these are important regiments that we wanted to touch. I think you're going to start understanding why I didn't know whether he's in the building or on the building. We're seeing that the Unhallowed Sepulchre. And finally, we have also some balance adjustments for Mori. So Mori and Keres, they're still keeping their spells, right? But the difference is that their ability to cast spells in general comes with a memory of old ability. So their abilities remain the same. You can still use all of the cool spells that you have, but it's a very small and yet really important difference in timing for when you can actually use those spells, and therefore how far onto the table you can get. So this is really, it might seem technical, but it's really important to address all of these things that you've been, all of that feedback that you've been giving us about the Mori. As always, we're trying to solve these by intervening in the model the least possible. We don't want to be nerfing them. We just want to make sure that we address the problems without hurting your favorite models.
Evan, do you want to address the other First Blood Old Dominion question?
The eternal answer is soon, but I can give you a bit of sort of like an update. So we have tested the sort of like the alpha version of Fallen Divinity for First Blood. So it is there, it is being tested, but we're not very happy with the version that we have right now. So we need to put a little bit more time to give you guys the model that you deserve, because it is such a huge aspect of, the model itself needs to be very, very, very nice when it's on the battlefield. So we figured that if we just release it, as it is, or without 150% of our thought there, it's going to be like, oh, okay, whatever, So we just want to make it, we want to make it nicer. So give us a little bit more time. We'll focus it a little bit more within the next couple of months, and we'll see how we can have it up for you guys very soon.
Thank you, sir. On to the Wadroon.
All right, so let's get chanting, yelling, combat yelling, however you like to call it. There is quite a few things. First of all, new characters, the Scion of Death and the Scion of War. You're going to see models. They're beautiful. They're there to encompass all of the things that you know and love about death and war. There's a new regiment, the Children of War. These amazing brutes. The Scion of War is also a brute card, a huge, amazing model. So let's start tying this a little bit together. First of all, with the coming of the Scions and the Chosen of War, we gave a little bit, new life to the cult playstyle in general. You're going to be seeing updates for the Scion of Conquest. You've been asking for a new, more, tactically interesting supremacy ability. You will get it. We have been giving new life to the Chosen of Death. But most important, and some of you already know, the cults of Ukun Fazane, the rule has changed. So now it's not just that you pick your warlord and then that warlord get those cults chosen as a mainstay. Instead, every character chooses a cult, as you know, and gets that cult chosen as restricted. So that just opens up wide open list building for you, and you can use all of these different chosen regiments without just feeling that you have to tie yourself down to needing a Scion warlord specifically. So they're there to really spice up your playstyle, whether you want to play with a Science or not. You've been asking for more meaningful chant abilities for the regiments. So very simply, we did exactly that. You're going to be seeing the Braves, Blooded, Hunters, everything that didn't have a chant ability before will have it now. Of course, there's a few adjustments here and there to make sure that everything is kept in line. But the main, let's say, direction of this update was to make sure that we bring new life to Blooded, Hunters, Braves, Veterans, Chosen of Death, Tauntor, Drumbeast, Warbred, and all of these other regiments, so you don't feel that you only need to be chanting with Slingers. And of course, when it comes to balance adjustments, I will let you guess. the regiments that have been getting those balance adjustments of the balance kind. I will say we were polite with our nerfs, but some were needed. You did not miss the Nord slide.
No, hang on, Zachary. Evan, your turn for Wadroon updates to First Blood.
So yeah, as Leo has mentioned, we have two new characters: the Scion of War and Scion of Death. So again, we want to focus a little bit more on the individuality of these two powerful characters for First Blood. So for Scion of War, he's going to come in with its unique movement skills, and of course, it's going to work best with the War Nouns units, such as the Chosen of War and Warbred. They're going to have a unique synergy with them, and they're going to have, so basically, they can work best together with these two War Nouns brutes. Now, for Scion of Death, we took it a little bit more on the extreme side of things. We wanted to make it sort of like a super solo, if you're familiar with the term. So they are capable of hunting down characters and as well as their retinues, because we wanted to make this sort of like almost like an assassin figure that they can move in, they can they can kill the characters as soon as they can. So it makes them sort of like a very powerful model and very scary model as well. So it could project some level of in a way control to the Wadroon that we don't see before. Because when you are in charge range of this model, you need to be very, very afraid.
Thank you, Evan. Did somebody say Nords?
And finally, of course, the Nords. So again, important updates people have been asking. Let's start with a super important. Mountain Yodnar is now medium. Blooded, give some extra love for Trolls and Ugur. We wanted to extend. If the Vargir Lord really plays well with those beasts, we want to make sure that the Blooded also shares some of that love with the Trolls and Ugur. Stay tuned. We're gonna be sharing with you a little bit about what that is. The Ugur are now shockingly beautiful. The same models, but they're shockingly beautiful now. Do you get it? It's because they're getting shock special rule.
Are you kidding, Leo? That's what that means?
That's what that means. This is the same level of humor as the opening slide that we've made. So,
fair enough.
So
Good
that's
dad joke right there.
right.
Solid dad jokes, Leo.
So we have the balance adjustments of the good kind. The good kind means up usually. We have a little bit points up on the Bow Chosen. We have some points adjustment for the Steel Chosen. We see things like +1 attack for the Huskarls. We see some love for the Wereworks. Scourge, the axe, also gets a little bit of extra cleave. We also see some love for the Fenrir. Right. And we also have the balance adjustments of the balance kind. I don't want to say nerfs, but it's more of the balance kind. Now, you saw it coming. The Golter needed a little bit of balancing goodness. But we also see Vargir Lord in terms of the warband. And we also see a slight adjustment to the Stalkers. Now, the whole plan here is to give you more options. We've been getting feedback, and we felt that there are only, I'm gonna say, optimistically two, definitely one really good build. Some of you are also experimenting with other good options, but we wanted to open that a little bit more and give you more options, more viable builds. And so we're planning towards these. We're planning to do that, or to get closer to that with these updates. Now, like we said a little bit before when we were talking about the 100 Kingdoms, there is a direction, and we wanted to make it part of our rules communication to not just tell you what updates are coming in any given update, but also tell you where are these updates are going, right? So like we said, flank, we want it to become rare. We want it to be less of it, or when it comes into play, to be more meaningful. That's really important. When it comes to the speed of the game, like I said, we're using the term slowing down, but it's really reinforcing the post-round 6 experience. It's making that part of the game matter more. And we're going to see scenarios, updates to the actual scenarios that really double down on that. Yes, less light scoring. You're going to notice, for example, that all of the new reworks that I've been having, it's not there. Starting with quality of life updates. So there is ensuring cohesion of wording across all rules, right? And making sure that older rules, or let's say factions that have been receiving a few toys back in the day, make use of the same design space we've developed to this day. So things like giving free banners to all of the spires. That's super important, because that's a new design decision that we've made for everybody that they haven't benefited from yet. So changes like that really tie into those goals. And when it comes to when, well, we want to make sure that every time we update the game, we leave it at a better place than it was before, with meaningful updates. So every 4 months, every update that we'll do is going to be getting a step closer towards that. We want to do things like giving more new life and more life to larger regiments, making sure that they compete well against multiple activations. Supremacy role is being examined to make sure, possibly just reverting back to the old one, or making sure that we give it a little bit more, let's say, to balance the multiple activation playstyle against the less activation, more elite sort of builds. So all of these are things that you've given us feedback on, things that we've seen, things that we've been noticing from tournaments, from your events. We thank you for all that feedback, and it's integral in shaping those directions that we're trying to follow.
So let's start with a few questions. Are Biomancer Supremacy nerfed?
Not for now. So there's a great question about, we talk about slowing down the game, but with some tournaments only allowing 2-hour games. Here's the thing. When it comes to slowing down games, we're not making the game being more grindy. We're not really meaning that you're going to be rolling more dice or reading more rules. We're not talking about complexity. We're meaning that sometimes, more often than we would like, when you get to round 6, the game has already been decided. We want to make sure that the game is decided as close to the last minute as possible. That does not mean adding complexity. That means you still have the same amount of regiments and you're still playing with those regiments, but we want to make sure that they're not just rushing altogether in the battlefield. So when you're controlling the flow of reinforcement, the amount of actions you've been taking simply is the same and just spread throughout the game. That's what we mean. We're not mean about at the actual minutes taking more. That's why I want to avoid the specifically the word slow, as it isn't slow really. Give a brief outlook on fluid formation. Yes, so things that give you extra actions, we want to limit them. But of course, when it comes to fluid formation, we will reveal more, but we're talking about a few things to not essentially allow you to abuse it for extra charge distance. So that's a really big one that we want to be looking at.
And I just want to jump in. I know there's a bunch of questions about the narrative. We're going to get to that in a second. I also want to note, please don't send questions about each individual unit or regiment. That's all going to be disclosed. We don't want this to be a 4-hour happy hour, as much as we all love you. But we do need to keep some things moving along. So ask more questions around the whys than the exact whats. That would be super helpful.
About the narrative gameplay, yes, I do want to make sure that I go back for the narrative and bring them up to where the game is today. And I'm also that is something that I personally would like to, even stats from campaigns and models that we have released a while back. They could also get a little bit of bringing them, up to speed with today's rules. So what you're saying is yes, I cannot give you a date right now, but these are definitely things that we want to make sure it will happen.
We are expanding the game design department to help with this extra workload. So it's something that we're going to be delivering to you guys as quick as we can, because we focused very heavily. Our first focus was getting the quality of our miniatures up, and now we're going to focus equally on getting the game refocusing, repolishing. You're going to see some changes when the Dwegon reworked army list comes out. There's going to be more lore in it. There's going to be little blurbs, little vignettes in each entry. These are just very time-consuming things, and it's going to give you a stronger feel for what the army is.
Yeah, you
Well-
guys have experienced the army on the tabletop, but we want you to really learn about your army and what they feel like and what really differentiates them, both on the tabletop and in the new lore book coming up.
Good plug, Hunter. Thank you. That's coming. I'll show a picture of that too. I promise. Evan, I want to go backwards for a few questions that were about general updates to Nords. Maybe you want to do a quick on some of the factions we didn't discuss in First Blood. What's sort of being addressed and why, and maybe what isn't as well.
So there's not a big update for Nords in this coming update, but I'll give you a little bit of sort of a spoiler going forward that Feral is changed. I know a lot of Nords unit have Feral, and it's one of those rules that creates a lot of both headache and pain across a lot of different players because of how random it is. So Feral is getting changed, is getting reworked. You're going to see it very soon. So it's going to affect Nords a lot because I know Nords have a lot of Feral units, and this will make your units are now playable. So it's not exactly a Nord update, but it affects Nord's playstyle just a little bit. Again, just for sort of like direction going forward for First Blood, we're looking at, again, for the next few updates, we're looking at some of the older factions that we have right now. I know there's a lot of shifting in terms of the power level between infantry, brutes, and monsters. We're still trying to sort of get them into an equally okay state within across every single faction. So we're working on that very hard, and we're going to see a lot of more adjustments in the future. So bear with us. We are focusing a lot on First Blood as well. We are requiring a lot of data from you guys. So if your community has First Blood games, has First Blood activities, has First Blood tournaments, send them to me, send them to us, because we would like to see how they perform in the battlefield. The more data is being fed to us, the more that we can make more better informed decision for the game.
Thanks, Evan. Brad, you have a question? I'm guessing not.
No, I'm just making sure the microphone works. This is good.
Okay.
I clicked a couple buttons. So I just want to touch on that. I've had a few comments, especially in the community, like brutes getting pinned.
Can you get a little closer to your mic, Brad? We're having a hard time hearing you.
Sorry, just give me a second. Is this a little better?
Not yet so far. A little bit, but not a lot. You sound a little far away from it.
Okay, give me a second here. I'll do this a little better, I think. I know there's been some comments in the community with brutes being expensive for the wounds and abilities they get. Getting pinned, or brutes going to be reworked for all factions in First Blood going forward? Is that what I'm hearing?
We're going to basically look at the condition of the brutes that we have right now. But we can't exactly change everything, so it has to be done in a gradual fashion. Like what you're seeing in the new Wudrun and Dweghom brutes are going to be sort of like the standard for brutes going forward. Is all I can mention at this point.
I want to address a question Mitchell asked. It says, any changes to Nord Half-Blood regiments? Those are pretty fast, or am I misunderstanding? This is a great question because what I want to address here is that there's a difference between something becoming fast because the pacing of the game requires it to become fast in order for it to really compete against what's out there. And there's a difference between that and it being fast, quote unquote, fast by design. So the Nords are there to be quote unquote fast by design and balanced for that, as opposed to needing to be that, because unless they can do that, they cannot compete in the overall TLAOK environment. So this is a really great question because it lets me highlight that important distinction. So we're not just anything that is fast by design and should be and get quote unquote fast will remain, but make sure that it's not that, because otherwise it cannot exist. That's what I want to stress.
Thank you, Leo. Sever, do you want to take maybe a minute to just a brief overview of how Lost and Found and the Ancestor are fitting into the lore to answer that question?
So in effect, you guys knew, if you've read the Berserker lore, that berserkers are basically those gifted that descended deep enough, and somewhere deep underground got given their sort of enhancements that allow them to survive for long enough to basically go out in a rampage of glory. The guys that actually win the Deukoro, the guys that actually make it all the way down, are the lost, right? And they're lost to the Duergon people, or they were lost to the Duergon people because they made it all the way down and literally touched war's prison, right? And that's where they communed with the elders who were trapped within. And they there are helping that prison hold out against basically the tide of destruction that is trying to engulf it and break it. And the ancestors are the trapped Duergon within who figured out a way to cheat and escape the prison. Not the we're showing miniatures of these later, Daryl.
Yep.
So you'll see it in their design. I'll go over it when we go over their design, but they are effectively the deepest, darkest guardians of the Deukoro coming back to the Duergon.
Perfect. I think we're in good form to start showing some of those things now. So here is the upcoming summer catalog for everyone's viewing pleasure. Once it shows up anyways. Come on. It's always a little lag. Let me center that. Why is that not centering? There we go. So a lot of these I've shown already, but I'm going to give you a new look at the catalog as well as some of the items you've already seen. Some things that we now have painted models of as well. But here are the Damaro Damashi. As we've noted before, we're super excited to show these and bring these to market. And they're coming in weeks, literally weeks. We'll start shipping in literal days, both these and the Origami Warriors. So May pre-orders are due from retailers. So if you typically do order from your retailer and haven't yet done so, make sure they know you want these because their orders are due into us in a couple days. So if you want to make sure that you're not shut out when something comes in, make sure your retailer knows that you want it because that's the only way for sure they know how many to order and make sure that they're in stock. I hear a lot of how come they don't have on Facebook and Instagram and all of the socials. And, you know, we're all humans. None of us have a magic crystal ball that tells us, do this, do that, and it'll be exactly right. So if you want to assure yourself something, make yourself known. And that's super helpful to everyone because we're all otherwise truly using educated guesses. And sometimes they're wrong. That's kind of the way it works. So we talked about the model, the monster models, the yokai. There's the Dai yokai and the Genya no yokai. And Sabro, jump in, or Leo, jump in. There's a little bit about how they play. This catalog is going to be posted, fear not, later today. So, because a few of you guys are sneaky and know where I post things, I can't do it during this, so you have to wait till after. But this will all be, you don't have to take screenshots or anything. You're going to have full access to it right after the event. So do not panic. All of Leo's notes about how they play are listed here, okay? I don't know, guys, feel free to jump in about anything you want to add. We're super excited for these. The Yoragumos coming in July.
I'm just excited, especially the other monsters. Like I've been seeing them getting painted and just amazing models. I'm just excited.
I got to say, the response from you as a community to our samurai here has been nothing short of fantastic. We couldn't be more pleased with your enthusiasm. I should be making this full screen. Sorry about that. It's been truly amazing to see the responses across the board, hearing it from your stores. Whoa, Oh, that's really fast. Let's try it that way. There's your Terraphone in all its painted beauty, with many different angles. I think
Is that the face? Is that a face on the bottom?
Yes, because the Pterophon is not a monster per se. It is actually a massive biosuit that a clone executor wears. And the problem with them is that they're incredibly addictive. So it creates a little bit of an issue. And few clone executors are able to really overcome and ever escape the sort of the Pterophon trap.
those who have hands raised and questions, we will come to them. I'm going to finish the presentation first. So do know, just raise your hand. We'll get to all the questions, I promise. Yeah, we're very excited for this June release of the Terraphone.
Can I say really quickly about the teaser on spells for Spider Lady? These are live already. The rules are on the app. The Euroni, the entire army list is there. So everything you see Euroni, it already has rules. You can read all about it.
And of course, we talked about these a lot, but the Chosen of War. Look at these bad boys. They go to the gym.
They don't need to.
And there is your Scion of War, a very highly tuned model. That's why it is an artisan resin. And then the Scion of Death, an exquisite, I almost want to say delicate, because it has almost some of the Damaru in it, but I think she's nothing but delicate. And the Leontarchus you've seen already today. You get a little bit better view of the gear inside. That'll be fun for everyone to paint, no doubt. There's your unhallowed sepulcher.
You just went into that like that. Just, oh, by the way, blah.
No, it doesn't need much hype. It just needs to be beheld. Beholden? I don't know. Beheld.
So,
Take a look. Take a look. Have a gander.
Yeah. So this, remember I told you we wanted it to look good. It took a while to get it to look this good, but we are very, very happy with it. It is a very, very, very challenging kit. And you're going to see, it's effectively, it's going to be like the Tontor and the Drum Beast. It's going to be configurable in two different ways. So the one is going to be the Unhallowed Sepulcher, and
I'll go back.
the other one is this one. It's the Theocrator. And basically, the Theocrator is, imagine him. He is the guy who punishes fallen divinities, or he is somebody who has succeeded in punishing fallen divinities. And he does this by basically reducing to that mewling larval sort of stage, and then spending its or pouring its energy out to empower the army. While the what's it called, the Unhallowed Sepulcher forms this nascent larval pupae from the divine energy that was infused in the very rocks and stones of Capitas when Haslia fell. And that's why this one is more centered around buffing the army, and the other one is more centered around, punching.
This is going to be a very large model. And we are working on bases and all of those fun things, with more to follow on that news later this summer.
I hope you now understand why I made that mention of Vanguard 3.
This will be in August, right before Labor Day. Perfectly timed for a long weekend of modeling here in the US anyways. We showed this once before, but all who are lost can be found. This is a dual kit.
So as you can see, they've been, all Duergom are by nature highly elemental. And these are guys who have been in in this huge underground prison that is all fire, all earth. They've been basically eating nothing but demon flesh. So that infusion of power has warped them as you see it. And the adaptations that they have are what needed to survive down there. So yeah, these are basically the final guardians of War's prison, and they were once Duergom who basically won the Del Coro, who got all the way down.
Stavro, this update is really metal. Like the other guys just punished like fallen divinities, and like the other guys eat demon flesh, and like the final bosses of like War's prison. This is like really cool, really metal vibes for this update.
And here you can see the ancestor. It's not the ancestor himself, something that was designed to hold back one of the horsemen. You can't escape from. But what they can do is create these sort of like metal projections that the ancestors then sort of mnemantically engrave their memories into and then pour their power. So what you end up with is this animated suit of armor that contains a copy of the ancestor that they send out. The problem is obviously these copies slowly break down, and the more the ancestor has to exert himself, the more quickly this happens. And since you all are familiar with Duergom, you know that the only way to really convince a Duergom about something is to punch him in the face until he agrees. So the ancestors have had to do so much punching in the face that a lot of these suits are breaking down, and the like raw power of the ancestor is escaping until it finally will do so with like an explosion. When the whole thing is, sort of gives up the ghost almost literally. So yeah, the idea is that these are empty suits failing to contain the power of the ancestors.
Duergom will come in July, and that's when we're planning the reworks as well to come with it. And in June, the faction objective zones that aren't already out will arrive. And then the dice, again, May and July for the dice. And yes, I think you're all pretty aware now that a lore book is coming as well. So the lore companion will arrive in June, an evergreen softcover version for $29.99, and a one-time print hardcover founders exclusive signed copy will be available while supplies last, numbered to 1,000 and hand signed by Stavro against his protestations.
I think those were eminently sensible protestations.
We will take pictures of him signing and the hand cramps that come with it. That was kind of like, I was laughing when you were talking about the battles that the ancestors fought, and it was not unlike the battle that we fought over this concept. It made me think about
1,000 books. 1,000.
And then the cohorts will be arriving for First Blood. I think everyone is aware that we discontinued the First Blood warbands. We're coming out with full assemble and ready to play 1,000 point army bundles for First Blood in the cohorts for each of the factions. That will be more complete, 99 euros and dollars. And super excited for these. The Euroni, of course, are coming now. Saw a picture of it earlier. And then the other 8 factions will arrive in June. I think that is everything. Yes, yes it is. So now back to questions. I'm sure there are a few, and then probably some things that people want to get back to. Leo, if you saw some questions, I'm just going to them now, so feel free to jump in.
I see a question of Wojtek about our version of Tabletop Simulator for Conquest. This is postponed and will be not postponed. This has always been a project that we want to work towards, but this is not something we don't have something to give you right now.
We really wish we did have something to give you, but it is currently beyond our means.
I just want to mention something really funny that I find funny that Zachary said. He described Conquest as, what if Tolkien had listened to Megadeth in high school? So after your explanation, so I just wanted to make sure that everybody hears that.
Justin, we'll talk about. I'm happy to address that with you about having difficulty getting stuff in Quebec. Universal in Montreal has quite a bit of stock available all the time, and I know we have some good retailers, so I'm looking forward to having a conversation with you. I will text you or put in the chat here my email, which I think people pretty much have anyways, and you can shoot me a note, and I look forward to solving problems like that. Those are my favorites. I was just up at Canada Plays too for Asmodee, so starting to get to know a lot of the Canadian retailers pretty well. And Rodney, same thing there. I know we have Universal in BC with a lot of inventory. That's where they stock most of it. I don't remember, Tim, why isn't it now part, but I don't know what product we were talking about there. But I mean, we're doing a lot. Every month there's new products. Joey, you have a question.
I have 2 questions from the chat that were a little bit ago that I thought I'd voice. First one is a Leo question. I think some of the players are seeing some spam happening with command stacks, and they're wondering if we're reconsidering bringing back the +1, -1 supremacy role for having less cards. What's your thoughts on that?
Yes. Actually, yeah, we did mention it a little bit. Part of the overarching the directions that we want to be taking. Part of those steps would be to look at that. Now, if I can get into a little bit more in depth here, the previous version of the supremacy role is not really a solution right now, because what happened really is that it really changing the supremacy role really gave us the understanding that the +1 alone was never enough to really stop somebody from spamming activations. So that made it incredibly important for us to put a considerable amount of effort to see how we can balance an elite style low activation army play against a multiple activation army. So this is definitely something that we are looking at. We're reverting back to the old supremacy rule is definitely on the table. We're not going to avoid doing something if it's good for the game, but we're looking at this incredibly intensively. So yes, it is definitely a major goal to make sure that spamming is not something that it's not just the way to go. I don't know how to put it differently, but yeah. Asking that question.
To give you an idea, the trends that we saw that we didn't like, that we are actively combating against, we just have to be very mindful, because we also have received very strong feedback we were changing the game too quickly. So it's a very delicate balance between changing the things we want to change and not doing it too quickly and pissing people off. Or if they take a break from the game, they come back to something that is unrecognizable, and then they take a permanent break from the game. So one of the things that we are focusing on very, very intensely is the spam. We've got a number of solutions, and they're being play tested. We are hoping to be able to put out some of them with this patch in the 2 weeks, but we want them to be thoroughly play tested. We don't want, it's a very delicate balance to support the sort of fewer bigger units play style over the MSU play style. And it's a very integrated process. So to give you an idea of things that we wanted to accomplish from this, there were two words that we used: the great deflankening, removing the sheer number of flank units. You know, there were armies that could, without rolling, guarantee their army was all on the table by turn 3. No dice rolled. This is not something we want to see routinely. It's something for key pieces or pieces that don't work unless they have this ability. You will also, it was also the great de-tripling, the removing of these triple activations, not just raw triple activations like March, Charge, Clash versions that, for example, the Chosen of Conquest could have, but also starting to limit things like Fluid Formation, which is a free reform, Fire in Advance, details like this, slowly culling them from the army lists so that they are A, special when they appear, and B, don't overload powers, because a triple activation that you can routinely use is a 50% increase in the effectiveness of a piece. So that is something that we want to bring. The pacing of the game is very, very important to us. We don't want to make it take longer, but we want every turn to be significant. And right now, the way the game was, it was encouraging light units flooding in, scoring early, and building an impossible lead over your opponent, which again strengthened the flank, made flank absolutely critical for the armies.
Vageli, we can hear your microphone.
Oh, sorry.
And then the last bit that we are seeing and we do want to address is this spanning, so that you have a massive command stack and then your last 2, 3, 4 activations have no response from your opponent. It's just, it has to be done delicately and very conscientiously.
Cody, you have a question?
Yeah, I have 2 questions actually. The first one was, I noticed in the Nord section in the balance adjustments part, after Werewolves, it says Scourge. I don't know what that is. Like, is that a new?
No, that's the axe of the Cedar. So that's why, yeah, it's. I mentioned it. It gives you now +1 cleave.
Oh, I see. Okay, and then the other question, you mentioned something about maybe some slight changes to city-state strategic stack. Can you give any hints towards that?
So not to the strategic stack itself, more about as we're taking away some things from chariots and tableaus, we're giving back to other regiments, and some are playing off some interesting combinations or just interesting synergies. Sorry, when they activate from the strategic stack. So the strategic stack exactly the same. Is just some regiments getting some extra synergies with it.
Okay. Any hints for those extra synergies?
We will reveal a lot more specifics very soon. That's what I would say. During the coming days, you'll get plenty of interesting comments. No worries.
Thank you.
Look at us being all coy and stuff.
We put out a lot of stuff today. More than I think everybody was thinking. I hope, anyways, because it was more than we were thinking originally. When we got it all together, we were like, whoa, we have a lot of stuff. All right. Any other questions from the group? All right. I think everyone's overwhelmed. I think I've answered all the questions in the chat. So with that, I'm going to say thank you to all the Vanguards who joined in. We really appreciate the feedback and the commentary. My thanks to everyone who joined on Twitch. And if you missed it, of course, know that this will, or if you came in part way and like, what did I miss? It'll be all on YouTube very, very soon. Tasso, probably tomorrow is my guess, right? I think you might be muted. Oh, there you go. So tomorrow for YouTube, we'll post the catalog in its usual places, and Tasso will put that on the website too for people to reference under highlights from the happy hour. So with everyone's blessing, I say good night, and I appreciate everyone's support. We are excited for all that we have coming this summer and look forward to seeing you at one of the events coming up at a con near you. Take care, everybody.
Take care. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you, everybody.
Good night, everyone. Take care.